Good morning, everyone. Time has arrived. I'm going to call our April County Council meeting to order. If you would, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is our auditor's financial report. Jennifer?
Good morning. Considering our revenue and budget for 2023, we had a beginning net balance of $4,703,547. You've granted appropriations of $15,645, taking out miscellaneous expenditures to date of just less than $10,000. We have available for appropriation $4,678,268. On the revenue report, we are 25% of the year complete. Obviously, haven't collected the property taxes yet, although I will say the bills hit the mailboxes this past weekend. So if we look at each of the other categories, they are all pretty close to the 25%, if not above. So I didn't have anything in particular to point out there. I'll be talking about interest in a minute, but obviously that one is up quite a bit as well. So overall, we're at 12.6% of what we anticipated. But if we take out the taxes and disregard those, we're at 31.4% for the year. Then on the fund balances, the only thing that I wanted to point out here was that on your electronic version, I highlighted some funds that we were trying to clean up. They're grant funds. We've closed some to the general fund. The commissioners passed a resolution declaring some of those dormant, meaning they hadn't had activity for several years. Some of those we closed to donation funds if they were a smaller amount, and then we also have some appropriations on today's agenda that reflect using up the grant funds. So we kind of have a combination there to try and clean those up. Unless there were any questions about that, that was all I had.
Are there any questions for Jennifer? Hearing none, thank you. We've got our treasurer's report, which is before you.
Yes, and Yadira anticipated with the property taxes. I know they were busy yesterday. She was anticipating customers this morning as well, so I told her I could present the report. The rates did not increase any additionally. However, last month it was a partial month of an increase. So right now we're sitting at just under 5% for the average interest rate, which is the highest of any rates I've seen in a long, long time. Don't know that it will stay there, but that's where we are right now. And so interest for the month of March was at $489,952.55. Fund distribution, nothing significant there. General fund is at $912,000 out of a total of $1.5 million. So I think that was all that she had mentioned to me.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council on that? Hearing none. Next item on our agenda is public comment concerning any of our items before us this morning. Is there any public comment concerning any of those agenda items? If not, we've got our consent agenda, which includes the minutes from our March meeting and also a number of transfers and grant appropriations. Are there any items, council members, that we need to have removed from that? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilman Murray to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have an additional appropriation for Superior Court 3.
I'll make a motion that we accept the salary statement reclassification in Superior Court 3 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Murray, to approve the additional appropriation, or excuse me, the salary statement for Superior Court 3 as presented. Discussion.
This did go through the Personnel Committee. It's because of additional job requirements. And it did pass through WIS, Personnel Committee Commissioners.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have a salary statement for the Public Defender.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we accept the salary statement for the public defender as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the salary statement for the Public Defender in the amount stated. Discussion.
So this is just going back from 2 part-time to 1 full-time, just what they could find in the market, who's available, so,
Okay. And as you can see, it was approved by the
commissioners,
commissioners back in
March.
March 20th. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have an appropriation for Fund 9259 for the prosecutor.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the Drug Prosecution Fund 9259 grant appropriation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Dolam, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the Fund 9259 grant appropriation as presented. Discussion.
This just follows up on what Jennifer said. This is what was left in one of our grants that spent out, so it will be spent pursuant to the original grant guidelines.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have the grant appropriation 2946 for the TEMA.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the Tippecanoe Hazmat Fund 2546 appropriation for TEMA as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilman Murray, to approve the Fund 2546 appropriation in the amount of $25,421. Discussion.
Again, this is a grant that we found sitting there and found the documentation for it, and we were spending it on the appropriate funds that it was originally set for back before 2013. Like Jennifer said, we're trying to clean up those accounts, and Smokey was very glad to spend it for us. So as soon as you appropriate it, we will spend it.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Fund 1123 for Community Corrections.
Make a motion, we approve the Department of Corrections Community Grant Fund 1123 appropriation in the amount presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the Fund 1123 appropriation in the total amount of $99,679. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jason.
This is funds being transferred from our CTP account, which is what we receive money from the Department of Corrections for housing individuals that are being released early from their prison time. We're just sending those aside for future use in those supply lines.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council?
On our explanation sheet, it says purchase 3 new Durangos and supplies and services. So are these 3 new cars, or are you adding to your fleet, or are you just replacing?
They're just supplementing what was already approved through council, so it's just making up the difference.
Okay.
It was during our budget time, we had
Right.
3 vehicles that were
Okay.
approved, so we're just making up the difference and outfitting those.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have a salary statement for two positions.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the salary statement, work release assistant coordinator, poll 3, in the amount of $48,230.
Second.
Both, for both the work release and case manager?
Yes.
Do them at once? Okay.
Yes, I was getting there.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. If we'll do them both at once, if that's okay.
Yes, that's okay.
That's all right. Jody, all right. I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the new position salary statements for work release assistant and case manager assistant, both at poll 3 in the amount stated. Discussion.
These two positions were created through our Department of Corrections grant that started in December. They went through the appropriate chains through Commissioners and Personnel Committee, and both are approved.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Major Bridge Fund appropriation.
Mr. President, I would put on the table Fund 1171 from Major Bridge, so we can hear the request of $500,000 from the Highway Department.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilman Richard, to approve the Fund 1171 appropriation in the amount of $500,000. Discussion.
Yeah, this is Major Bridge, which does apply to Bridge 32. It's the final payments on Bridge 32 this year. Completion, it was open to traffic last year, but it's not finalized out yet. We have other TIF projects that are letting, and we'll talk about Jaeger too. All these prices are going up, so what we've done is to take some pressure off the TIF fund, we're moving this last payment on Bridge 32 over into the Major Bridge.
Can you remind me which bridge is Bridge 32?
32, Haggerty, across the Wildcat. The big one. Major Bridge, over 200 feet.
Major.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 1173 appropriation.
Mr. President, I would approve the, for the Major Bridge, or for the, can't see here, Restricted Fund 1173 appropriation for $2,600,000.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Basham, a second from Councilman Richard, to approve the Fund 1173 MVH fund appropriation in the amount of $2.6 million. Discussion.
This is the other one that's a price increase. It was in the January letting, did not sell. We relet it in March. Took about half to $750,000 off of it. It's still well over our budgeted amount, and this is the increase to cover that.
Okay. Questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Fund 9203 appropriation for juvenile alternatives.
Make a motion, we approve the Juvenile Alternatives Truancy Mediation Fund 9203 in the amount of $843.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the Fund 9203 appropriation in the amount of $843. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We had a staff member with a change in life circumstance, and so we just needed some additional funds in that account.
Okay. Questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Health Department Fund 4118 appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve the Health Department Donation Fund 4118 in the amount of $300.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the Fund 4118 appropriation in the amount of $300. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This will go towards our community baby shower, which is May 10th. We've had a lot of donations this year, and it's bigger and better than last year even, so we're excited about it.
Okay. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 9170 grant appropriation.
Make a motion, we approve Vaccine Reimbursement Fund 9170 grant appropriation in the amount of $333,011.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the Vaccine Reimbursement Fund 9170 grant appropriation in the amount of $333,011. Discussion.
We'll include the 1,000. This will go towards our nursing supplies, equipment, school liaison, different avenues that we utilize vaccines in.
Okay. Questions, discussion?
No, I'll just kind of continue with what Amy said. So some of the equipment, like a lead testing machine, you'll notice some salaries in there. Those are contract employees or the anticipation of contract employees to help provide services to the community that are desperately needed.
Okay. Thank you.
Amy, are we still working in regards to the lead testing with some of the other surrounding counties?
Yes. Jolene, last I knew, had 40-some cases, 42, I believe, open, and they're working diligently, so.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sheriff Fund 9144 grant appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Fund 9144 grant appropriation for the Sheriff's Department as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the Fund 9144 grant appropriation in the amount of $7,044. Discussion.
Morning again.
Good morning, again.
More funds that we found that needed to be spent, and the sheriff has obligated to spend that money appropriately for the burn grant. Actually, anyway, yeah, it's ready to go as soon as you guys approve it.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Next, we have Fund 9185 grant appropriation.
I'll make a motion that we accept Fund 9185 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the Fund 9185 grant appropriation in the amount of $1,263. Discussion.
Again, we'd like to spend this money the way it's supposed to be spent and appropriately, and I appreciate you letting us clean up the accounts of the grants so that they're not sitting there not getting spent.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Commissioners Fund 1,112 appropriation.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the EDIT Fund 1112 appropriation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Verna, second from Councilwoman Hamilton, to approve the EDIT Fund 1112 appropriation in the amount of $500,000. Discussion.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This $500,000 request is for the emergency project at the jail. You remember that Tony, who is here today to answer any questions, if you have any, outlined the details of that project. It's still moving forward, set to be completed with the pipelining on the 19th of this month, but just as we talked about last month, we're going to be needing an additional appropriation to help cover those expenses.
Okay. Tony, are you going to do your show and tell, or? Sure.
Hi. John, you were asking last week or a couple weeks ago about the lining of the pipe, so I do have a sample here. It is a two-part epoxy product. We actually had a couple samples. First one was made of a 4-part lining of a ceramic process, which we didn't care for. We deemed that this epoxy process was the best lining out there, and And those folks are to do that, like Tom just said, on the 19th. So we hope after this it's finished, but we don't know. We will open things back up 100% and go from there.
You can run acid down that line.
We hope.
Hope so.
Whatever it takes.
That Schedule 80 or something?
That'll be a 40. It's equivalent to that pipe, the outer lining that you have there in your hand, so.
Okay.
Just a financial question. I know that we were going to try to see if we could get any insurance money. Has that happened? No, we can't.
It's been
Okay.
denied.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that update.
Welcome to fight back.
I will take that back.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, discussion from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that is approved. Next, we have Fund 8950 appropriation.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve ARPA Fund 8950 appropriation as presented.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Councilwoman Vernon, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton to approve the ARPA Fund 8950 appropriation in the amount of $200,000. Discussion.
Yes. Okay, this is an appropriation for one of the projects that was outlined for expenditure, excuse me, from the ARPA funds. And this is for workforce, economic development, attraction. And this is one of the projects that's been outlined with the READY project as well as far as a regional initiative. This is a partnership with to develop sites for child, what am I thinking of? For child care, I'm sorry. Gosh, my cold is getting the best of me. So this is working with Right Steps here locally to develop child care sites to bring them up from non-accreditation to the accreditation level so that they can serve more children. And helping them develop those resources. And so, again, this is a project that's been identified as a need in the entire region, and this is the match then for the local share for the READY project.
Okay. Any discussion or questions from council? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have committee reports. Any of those to come before us? Any unfinished business? New business? Commissioner FYI.
Okay, just two things to announce. On April 27th at 2 p.m., Community Corrections will be hosting a ribbon cutting for the new addition to that. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility. Jason and his team's done a great job with that. So we're excited to share that not only with you, but with the community as a whole. That will be a really nice event. Also, we did receive bids back on the animal shelter project. If you recall, this is a project that's done by not only Tippecanoe County, but by the cities of Lafayette and West Lafayette. That's a 50% share from the city of Lafayette, 40% by the county, and 10% by West Lafayette. Those bids came back a little bit over at I think about $74,000 over the estimate for this phase of the bidding. But based on bids that we've received for highway and other projects that we're seeing, we were thrilled that was a relatively small amount over. So that project is moving forward, and please expect a groundbreaking invitation for that sometime in early May. That date has not been firmed up yet, so more information to come on that.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, any public comments for us this morning?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a public comment.
Yes.
A few months back, I brought up an issue of the slaughter of these children that's on our generation. I do not have a prepared speech, but I feel that the blood's on us, that we continue not to move in that direction, to put more officers in the school. I've done a lot of search in the community and asking questions, and just the presence of a resource officer in that school is a deterrence. These resource officers are friends of the students. They bond with the students, and just having an officer in those schools, I mentioned that we spend money for other things. I don't see why we are kicking the can down the road. I would like to hear possibly, and I'm not trying to put the individual on the spot, but I'd like to hear from the sheriff where we have gone with this. When I mentioned this about 3 or 4 months ago, this is a nationwide thing, and gun control, I don't know if that's the answer or not. You can't take everybody's weapon, but we have to go on defense, and we got to be ready. I know the schools have a great program as far as sign-ins and sign-outs, but I think one of these days it's going to come to the point where you got to go through a metal detector. Is that crazy? Possibly. But I'd like to hear from the sheriff or the commissioners. We get $500,000 to food finders. When you're dead, you don't eat. I mean, people, I'm talking right now. I want you to listen to me. It's all over the nation. We have to do something to protect these young people. They're being slaughtered. Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay, yeah. Very good point. It does. We have 5. To do what you're wanting to do, it'd be 14 more.
Got 4.
There is a grant out there now to add additional ones, but the issue is, and it's a nationwide thing, it's not a Tippecanoe County thing.
Right. And we need to be the leader.
I agree. We have 3 positions open on the road. I think we have 9 people in a process right now that's just starting again. We just ran a process and had 3 people left, and they all failed. So we're not going to lower our standards just to fill the streets, because that's not going to work. We'll have other problems. But to do what you're saying, if you were to hire 14 right away, it's going to cost you about, I don't know, several $1 million right away.
That's good. So what?
I totally agree. You could open it up, try to hire retired officers. Some of the security folks that work out and about, that's not going to cut it. We need police officers or retired officers taking those positions because they know the job. They know the tactics, they know what they need to do, they have the skills, communication, building relationships with those kids. I agree it's a deterrent. It also helps having them in the school, building a relationship with the staff. That's important, getting them to understand, locking these doors, not letting everybody in a side door because they're your buddy or they're your neighbor. A lot of times if you look in these incidents in the school shootings, the people had gone to that school previously, or they had people in that school, so they're very familiar with those schools. But I agree with you. It's steps we need to take care of our kids. And right now, the issues we're having, and again, it's a nationwide thing with law enforcement, is being fully staffed. Right now, we're 17 short in the jail. We've got road officers working in the jail. So dispatch, I think we may be 1 down. We may be full. We had 1 leave. She decided to come back because she liked it there, so she didn't leave. She stayed. But it's a struggle, and I agree with you. It would help, but to get them and put them directly in the schools, it would be a tough pill to swallow for the people on patrol and the citizens, because it would be nice to have those officers patrolling the streets. But if you have an officer in every school, or more of the schools, then it frees the people on the road to do, as I said the other day in a meeting, cop stuff. Right now, the top 3 things we do are transport prisoners, sit on prisoners, and do EDOs. That's what they do before they can do actual police work. So there's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of different angles we need to look at to try to multiply manpower. So I agree with what you're saying. And you could approve 14 of them. We could do it this year for next year.
I'd like to make a motion.
It's going to be extremely difficult to fill those spots because you just can't get the applicants. You can't. But I agree with you. It would help. We haven't had a situation here, but we prepare in case we do, and we'll react appropriately, much like you saw in Tennessee. We're not going to hesitate to save our kids and save people, but it takes manpower, it takes money.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to jump in here. We have an issue here. We have like 70 opening positions in our county that we can't fill. Indiana State Police, they're getting a pay raise where their first-year trooper will make more than a lieutenant does at the sheriff's department. They will have a 15-year veteran at state police make $115,000. You have 15-year veterans at the sheriff's department that don't make 70. Lafayette Police are going to raise the pay for their for their officers. Inflation's hitting us at 10%. State attorneys now coming out of law school that I try to recruit can now, starting July 1, start $20,000 more than I can pay my starting lawyers. I bring this up to you because I know you're going to start talking about what will be the pay raises for our employees. What will be the pay scale for our employees? We are not getting applicants. We are not getting applicants because we're not giving them enough pay. So we have always led this state. You have a large task ahead of you. I believe the public understands if you want good people and recruit good people, you have to offer them a pay package that is sustainable. So what the sheriff just said is true across the whole board. For my office, for community corrections, where they're trying to hire people, for probation, where they're trying to hire people. We need to have some maybe talks before we get in the budget cycles, and not just one office at a time. Meet with all of us, because the moment's coming. It's already here. And we're also communing with the state of Indiana. Right now, the state of Indiana is going to offer increased pays anywhere from 8 to 36% across the board. They have over 2,000 vacant spots that they're now going to try to raise the rates to compete. Well, that's who we compete with, too. So it's kind of like a chain reaction here, but I just put that out there, and I agree with you 100%, John. We need to protect our children. And I agree, whatever it costs. Let's not be in the front page of the nation. Let's do it, fix it before that ever happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Sheriff.
Yep.
Thank you, Pat.
I'm going to chime in real quick. I've worked in schools. I work for school corporations, many of you know. I've attended school safety specialist academies as a beginner and as an advanced school safety specialist certificate. I sit there with law enforcement officers from all across the state. And John, I don't disagree personally with that. I have kids who are fourth graders, so obviously, it impacts me very personally about what could. I think this is a great conversation to have happen with a public safety, lit safety committee. But we have the money there. We've already assessed an extra tax to fund things that we need. And so I think this is a great opportunity for that committee, whoever it may be, Kevin, to have that overarching discussion on how we utilize that money moving forward. And is there a plan with that money, a strategic plan with that, of how it's going to be spent? Is it capital expenses? Is it salaries? Is it, whatever it may be? I think that's a great opportunity to address the concerns that have been brought to us to support those needs that our community has. And also understanding that whatever we make has a domino impact on other school corporations that may not be as fiscally positive as we are right now. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Well, and the other comment that I want to make is not only should, in this discussion with some of the departments that our prosecutor stated, but when we look at Carry Home and with Rebecca and with our juveniles, and as the sheriff just stated, he's spending how much time on the road transporting children. So, that has to be brought forth on the table as well.
Big decisions to be weighed, for sure. So appreciate the comments. We got a lot of work ahead of us, for sure. as we move forward into the budget process. So we will continue the discussions as we move forward. Any other public comment for us this morning?
I do want to just say that I don't think we can make our schools a prison, and I don't think that if you look at where gun violence is happening, it's happening everywhere in our community. It's happening where it just happened at a bank where there are armed guards. So I think we need to think about this very carefully, and there's not a simple, easy solution, because if there was, by God, we would have done it by now. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay, thank you. There's no other public comment. Our next meeting is May 9th. I'll take that last motion.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.